Spirit Keepers Tarot. You will have heard of this deck, no doubt. You will have heard of the lovely deck creator, Benebell Wen. Today we are going to have a walkthrough of the deck, and I'm going to do my best to do it justice in a review. Like Benebell, I have a reputation for being a very analytical, practical, and system reader. The science of the system. So when Benebell was releasing this deck, it was a no-brainer that I was going to get one. Rewind a minute to summer 2018. I saw a tweet from Benebell and it said that she had the fantasy of creating a personal deck, a hand-drawn deck just for her use. Now, as the summer progressed, we saw images of the deck everywhere that Benebell was posting, and the idea or the seed began to grow. I remember thinking when I saw this leap from a tweet to the cards actually being created or drawn, hand-drawn, I thought, wow, this girl is a machine. And I admired the tenacity and dedication she was given to this deck for her own personal tarot journey. I recognized in Benebell this drive, this inner drive, this seed that had been planted and grew into something magnificent. And I understood that drive because it was the same as what I had when I started creating the Kipper book. The seed was planted and I had to finish it. I cannot explain that drive, only that it had to be done. Every moment I had that inner feeling that it had to be completed. So I recognized this in Benebell, this personal journey that she was going on with the cards. So when I say it would be an injustice to review this deck with one video, I mean that. You see, we're not reviewing a simple deck. It is a complex, multi-layered system of reading. It includes not only the deck, but also the book of maps, written as a companion book to the deck, but so in depth at 448 pages that we can't simply call this a companion book. In Benebell's words, this tarot deck is about giving life. It is crafted from religious faith. She explains the journey on which she was traveling to get to the creation of this deck. And for some of my audience, it will sound or feel on the woo-woo side of life. But stick with me for a moment, because Benebell goes on to say we have to appraise the cards more critically through correspondence. The correspondence of symbols and multiple layers. The deck she has created is multiple layers of system. So if it sounds woo-woo to you, there is actually system behind it. There is a whole lifetime or many lifetimes of research and information that has been taken and applied to this deck of tarot cards. The deck is mixing an alchemical approach with the science of the system. And of course, in her own words, a single theology. Benebell also says that she is honoring the tarot deck as a sacred text. And all this created in just 38 days. So the concept. So imagine for one moment that you have A.E. Waite in the room and Mr. Aleister Crowley in the room. And then you have Benebell sat on a sofa discussing with them. She extracts the information from each of them, adds her own understanding of her own beliefs, and creates a deck that merges the teachings from both into her own personal deck. She mixes the perspectives of the two into a oneness, and this again single theology. So what about the specs of this deck? There were 1,000 decks released on the first edition. Each of those 1,000 decks has a lovely forever home. It comes with a certificate of authenticity and a little white book with 80 pages, which is clearly written and highlights the overlaying information that you need to get started with this deck. Every deck is sent with a sticker, every deck is sent with a magnet, the little white book, and in a hard case. The premium package, which accounted for 99% of all sales, came with video instruction or a video orientation on how to use this deck, how to start with it, and how the concepts of the deck can be used. For my friends who aren't on the woo-woo side of life, then 50% of those videos probably aren't directed at you. But the other 50% that are actually very good videos for understanding the concept behind the deck and also where Benebell lands on the scale of woo-woo, if you like. Now, the Book of Maps is, as I say, a 448-page companion book for this deck. It includes all the concepts that are intertwined in this deck. So not just how to lay your cards, but all the background information on why it is as it is and how to work with that. Do you now see why one video isn't enough to gather all this information for you? So one last quote from Benebell before I move on to the cards and what they look like. Benebell says, if you can read any tarot deck fluently, you can read the Spirit Keeper's Tarot right out of the box. So for those people who are concerned that they will have to learn a lot to apply these cards, that's not true. The information that is given in the Book of Maps and also in the little white book and in the video tutorials is extra information to understand the multi-layered nature of this system much better and deeper, and move on to perhaps a deeper level of understanding. The deck itself is presented in an order we may not instantly associate with a tarot deck. So the deck arrives in an order that shows the chronology of our being created, then leads us into the physical world. The Book of Maps then reorders the cards into the order that we would expect for our journey back into oneness. Don't panic if this is too woo-woo for you. As Benebell says, you may ignore the parts that are too woo-woo for you. Read it practically as you would any other deck. The first thing you will notice is that we have three significators that show a particular spot on our journey. We have the Initiate, the Seeker, and the Keeper. Another difference, our court cards. Our kings become our archangels. Our queens have become our shields. Our knights have become our virtue, and the pages have become our strongholds. We have our scepters, chalices, sword, and orbs. No matter what your beliefs are or how you read with tarot, everything in the system is explained tastefully and also matter of factly. Yet there are parts that I don't personally subscribe to because of my belief system, and Benebell recognizes that in readers, that we all have our belief system, and she has created the deck for it to work with our belief system. So let's have a look at the deck itself. The deck is super nice card stock We have our gold edgings. Each image is hand-drawn in black and white. It is super easy to shuffle. It has actually an ASMR sound to it as we are shuffling. The black and white I personally love. The black and white gives you, the reader, the choice. If you wanted to sit and color this in, then you could absolutely do that. Personally, it doesn't need it. Every single line on this deck has a reason. Every single symbol that's on there, every single tiny piece of information that is on there has a reason, and that is what appeals to me as a very system-based reader. There is a reasoning behind the imagery. Every symbol has been thoughtfully added by the deck creator. If you are somebody who's like me, who is a practical reader, who doesn't subscribe so much to the woo-woo side of life, then there is enough in this deck for you to find it super interesting. The reason I say that is because the companion book as well, the information that you gain between the lines on historical aspect, the research that's been put in obviously by Benebell, the symbology that's in there, it leads to a multi-layered system that you can apply. As Benebell says, if you don't subscribe to the woo-woo side of life, just ignore that. Use the deck as you read and take the information that you need from the book, from the companion, from the deck itself, and use it as you read. In short, whether you are a woo-woo reader or a full-on system, practical, analytical, science of the system reader, there is a purpose in this deck for you. Benebell has created a movement, not just a deck. This is a movement. I truly believe that down the line, the younger generations are going to refer back to this deck as the moment in which A.E. Waite, Aleister Crowley came into the room and passed on their knowledge to somebody who created then a way, a movement, a shift, a transformation. That's what the Spirit Keepers Tarot brings to you. Did you miss out on the first edition? Don't worry, because I have some great news for you. Benebell just released it in 2019. There will be a second wave of Spirit Keepers coming to the world, being birthed into the world. Sign up for Benebell's blog. I will put all her details below, including Twitter, etc. And you should follow her for that next wave. Have a lovely rest of day.